Well, let's go ahead and get started. Thanks for coming. So my name's Aaron Brock. I'm the Executive Director for Missoula Food Bank. I'm just going to do a little introduction here, and I'm going to turn it over to Jessica. Jessica's going to walk us through a lot of the numbers that we've seen from 2015. What I'm going to do is try to put a little bit of 30,000-foot view context. So where do the numbers come from? We're going to hear in this report about various kinds of service that we offer. So I'm sure a lot of us are familiar with our main site over on South 3rd Street. We're set up like a small free grocery store. So we talk about that in our numbers. And when people walk through the doors, they fill out an intake survey. We're asking there about their housing situation, their income, is someone working, what other services are they getting, things like that. There are no criteria. So this is a survey that people fill out every time they come in, but we're not looking to say, are you eligible to get food from us or not? The best judge of whether or not you are is you. And so anybody can get food at Missoula Food Bank, and that form is the source of a lot of the data that we have here today. So you fill that form out, you visit with a volunteer interviewer. The purpose of that is you're here for emergency food assistance. Are there other services in this community that we can connect you to? And then you take a shopping cart and a list that's based on your family size. A family of 5 is going to take more food than a single individual will. And you get a shopping cart and you go through and you pick items off of our shelves. It's a client choice model. So you might have a couple of different kinds of soup on the shelves, and your family can take 3 cans. So you pick the cans that are the kind of soup that you like, that your kids will eat. And that's the primary way that we fulfill our mission here in Missoula. But there are some ancillary ways too. We do a delivery program once a month to homebound seniors. That's called Roots. We do some children's programs. We have a once a week a program called Kids Empower Pack that sends a package of easy-to-eat, kid-friendly, but nutritious food home to kids over the weekends. These are kids who are identified by resource counselors and teachers in MCPS schools as being at risk of hunger. These are kids who are showing up on Monday morning not ready to learn because they're undernourished. We also do a summer lunch program called Kids Table. This is a program that fills in where school lunch leaves off. So we work with more than 20 different partner agencies and locations all around Missoula. These are places that are identifying, offering summer camps and learning programs and safe places to be for these kids. And our job is make sure they have a healthy lunch as a part of that. That's expanded this year into an after-school program, primarily through Flagship, but through some other after-school programs also, where there are kids getting a healthy snack at a lot of schools after school. These are on-site programs. So you'll learn more about all of that from Jessica as she walks through some numbers, but those are where the numbers come from. When we talk about service, we're talking about one of those elements. So I'm going to turn it over to Jess.
Excellent. So thank you everyone for being here. I feel like every year in January and February, we go around in our community and we have a similar story. We talk about how more people are in need of emergency food assistance. We saw more people, we delivered more services, and spoiler alert, I think that's really the story that we're talking about today as well. In this last year, 2015, we saw more of our neighbors come through the doors of Missoula Food Bank than we ever have before. Today, what I want to do is talk a little bit about those numbers. We're going to dissect those numbers. We're going to talk about who really is coming to the food bank, what are the reasons that people are in need of emergency food assistance in our community, and then talk about some of the future programs, things that we're working toward to try to move this needle. So before we do that, I want to chat really quickly just about Missoula County. This is where we live. The population, we're right around 112,000 people. Enrolled in the SNAP program, 15,484 people. So SNAP is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. It is our country's primary tool to putting food in households of those who don't have enough income to have adequate nutrition in the house. I want you to remember that number, about 15,500 people enrolled in the SNAP program as we move through this PowerPoint. Poverty rate, is 16.5%. That's considered a high poverty county in the state of Montana. 14.5% is where the state really designates that being considered high poverty. And so last year, 16.5% of our neighbors were surviving at the poverty rate. They've broken down the population of kids, those under 18 living in the county. The reason that I've done this is because we have, as Aaron mentioned, a number of different childhood hunger programs, and the bulk of them really hit in that 5 to 13. It's elementary school children. It's easy to hit kids when they are in school because we can take then the mountain to the people. Under 5, there are some programs like preschools and Head Start, but a lot of children in Montana and in Missoula don't hit those kind of institutional places of intervention for hunger until we get to 5. And then we're also in some of the high schools. Our after-school snack and meal program is in all of our high schools. When we take a look at childhood poverty, you know, the overall poverty rate for Missoula County is 16.5%, but when we distill that to kids, 20%, 1 in 5 children who are growing up in Missoula, Montana are growing up in poverty. So these are numbers from our store program. As Aaron mentioned, our store is our primary service. This is how we get most of the food that we distribute into our community. Unduplicated customers last year was 18,414. That's 1 in 6 people in Missoula, Montana that used our food bank last year. If you remember to the last slide, about 15,500 qualify for the SNAP program or are enrolled in the SNAP program, excuse me. More qualify but are not enrolled. But we served about 3,000 more individuals than are enrolled in the SNAP program. Those 18,414 people received 73,102 services through our store. 35% of store services benefit kids, 14% benefit seniors. So for the last 3 years, seniors have been our most growing demographic. We have seen, as people age on a limited income, the increase in need among our aging neighbors. The thing about seniors, though, is that they have really, as they have increased, as the number of services have increased, so too have our services at the food bank. And over the last 3 years, they really have been at about 10% of our makeup. This year, we did see the jump to about 14% of all those using Missoula Food Bank. 14% are seniors. We did see an increase in veterans. Last year, that percentage was 12% of households had a vet in the house. This year, it is 14%. And then, you know, as Aaron mentioned, people can come to Missoula Food Bank 2 times per calendar month. So a family can come one time for what we call is a full shop, and that includes pantry staples, and then a second time in the month if there still is not enough food in the household, people can come back for a second time in the month for a total of a possible 24 visits over the entire year if people were to use the food bank every single time that they were eligible to use it. Of everybody who comes through our doors, 38% only come 1 time. And only 18% come 6 or more times. So this really shows that our local food bank, we are a safety net. We are here when families are on temporary hard times and are able to fill a temporary need. These are some of the numbers from our other programs. Roots is our home delivery program for seniors, 4,620 services last year. Kids Table Summertime, which again, this is a safety net program wherein Missoula Food Bank partners with other agencies that are providing services to kids who are not able to access breakfast and lunch during the summertime at their school. And so 16,679 services in last summer. Missoula Public Library actually was our very first open feeding site last year where any kid can come and grab a healthy lunch. Kids in Power Pack, again, this is our weekend program where healthy food is going home with kids who have been identified within the schools as experiencing chronic hunger over the weekends. That's about 12,500 services last year. Kids Table After School, this is a daily program where we have 11 sites throughout the community where we have food after school every single day, 5 component snacks, really nutrient-rich, fun kid food, 11,105 services. What's interesting about this number is that this program piloted in October, and so you will see next year that number will be significantly higher. And then for Thanksgiving, Thanksgiving is this is a 2-day distribution that we do the Monday and Tuesday before Thanksgiving. It's something really special that this community comes together to do, to provide a Thanksgiving Day meal to families who would otherwise go without. This year, that program hit 6,229 different individuals. So we talked about seniors. This is Keith. And Keith is one of the people who we know from our services. Keith is a really good example of seniors in our community, wherein we have seen seniors are really hard to reach. There's a pride, there's a stigma, and a social isolation component that comes with, that seems to be correlated to aging and poverty. Keith is in recovery right now from bladder cancer, and got to the point that he really just he really was just so in need. Came to our food bank, and he's got a really great story. You know, the quote talks about how pride made it difficult for him to come to the food bank, but the rest of Keith's story is that now he does come into the food bank, and not always when he needs to shop, but rather to bring in his grandson, and that the food bank, our food bank, has become kind of a community for Keith. In total, 119,113 services last year. 119,113 different interventions of hunger in our community. It was 1.54 million pounds of food, and we have a staff of 11 people at Missoula Food Bank. We would never be able to do over almost 120,000 services without the incredible help of 1,574 different volunteers who donated 27,128 hours of service. It's really incredible what happens out of our little store on 3rd Street. We're really proud of these numbers because of the way that we get to deliver service. Dignity and empathy and equity are some of the non-negotiables at our local food bank, and we're so grateful for the resources that this community donates, including time, including food, including money, so that we can continue to deliver this number of services at the level at which we are able to do it. This is not a good number, though. Even with 1.54 million pounds of food being pushed out into our community, we still see more and more hunger in our neighborhoods. So really quickly, I'm not going to spend a ton of time going through poverty numbers, but I want you just to find just look over these numbers. This is actual poverty. So when we talk about the 16.5% of Missoula County who are living at poverty rate, the 20% of kids, this is really what poverty means. We talk about it a lot. We talk about, living in poverty. Sometimes we talk about it as a state. But really what it is it's a measure. It's a unit of measurement of income to the household. The last column is really the per month. That's just the 100% of poverty divided by 12. If you consider your own household, just think about how much you spend on either rent or your mortgage, and kind of plug that into what your household size and how much per month poverty is. And think about the ratio of that. Missoula is a really expensive place to live. We have high rents. We have a high cost of living here for housing and utilities. And so just kind of keeping that in perspective. One thing to note about the poverty rate is that even our federal safety net programs don't use poverty as the cutoff. We know that this is a laughably low amount of money to be coming into a household. And so usually when we see safety net programs and their eligibility, it's typically 185% of poverty. It's almost double of what we call impoverished in our nation. So again, this is that last slide, but when we talk about the 16.5% of people, we talk about kids who 20%, 1 in 5 children, that really is what we're talking about when we talk about in poverty. This is some of the income information and kind of eligibility information that we see from the people who use our store. This is only information that's collected from our store. This doesn't have the demographics from our childhood programs or from our Roots program. So of all households who visit Missoula Food Bank, 42% have someone employed. The average monthly income of a household who comes to Missoula Food Bank is $934. If you think back to the poverty slide, that is less than the one person household for 100% of poverty. And so, and the average household at Missoula Food Bank is not a one-person household. So 8% of households report $0 to $200 per month in income. And that's cash income. That doesn't include SNAP benefits, but we do have a piece of our population who are living basically cashless. 54% on average is the percentage of monthly income, that's going to rent, keeping a roof overhead. The HUD, which is our Housing and Urban Development, it's a federal agency. They say that in order for housing to be considered affordable, that should be at 33% of your income. So imagine that after, even at those very low income levels, spending more than half of what's coming into the household just keeping a roof overhead makes it very difficult at the end of the month when all of these elastic expenses come in. So when we talk about elastic expense, we talk about those things that are not necessarily, that you don't get invoiced for. So your rent and your utilities and the phone bill and those types of things that you get a bill, those are not elastic. Those are what they are. You have to pay it or you don't get that service. With food, you have choices. You can go to the store and you can buy a bunch of ramen and that takes down your budget. It doesn't fulfill a nutritious diet, but there is some choice there. And so with elastic expenses like food, that happens at the end of all of those other expenses that happen in the month. So of the 18,414 individuals who came to Missoula Food Bank last year, 52% of households received SNAP. So not only is Missoula Food Bank serving 3,000 more people than the SNAP program is in our county, only half of the people who come to Missoula Food Bank are on the SNAP program. The average SNAP benefit per person in Missoula County is $136 per person. Average household benefit at MFB is $205, and those are a little bit different. I don't have the data correlated to household size here because SNAP benefits are per person in the household. But as an average in Missoula County, that $136 per person is how much we see people getting in SNAP benefits. This is Jerry. Jerry is one of our volunteers and she is an advocate. She has shared her story. Jerry works 2 jobs and she has 2 kids. They continue to, and she and her partner continue to struggle. There are significant medical costs in the household. And even with 2 jobs, there are times where Jerry is needing to come to the food bank. One of her jobs is a professional job, working for one of the largest employers in Missoula. And the other is at a local grocery store. I actually know Jerry because she checks my groceries. But what I love about this photo, which is so happy, and about Jerry, is that there is this sense at Missoula Food Bank and in our community that we are not in this alone. That this is a community problem, that so many people come together every year to volunteer and to donate, and really to make Missoula Food Bank a welcoming and good place to be. And she says, you know, I dance on, my family has a roof overhead, and we have each other. Why are people coming to Missoula Food Bank? Hunger is not an issue of not having enough food in our community. Hunger is a symptom of larger issues. We say all the time, we're never going to food bank our way to the end of hunger. And in order to impact the number of people who are hungry in our community, we have to start looking at why it is that they come through our doors in the first place. So This does not add up to 100% because people who fill out our survey, our income survey, are able to check more than one of these. But you see, 52%, more than half of people who come to the food bank say that housing and utility costs is the reason that most influence their trip to the food bank. Low wages, out of SNAP benefits, unemployment, unexpected emergencies. So 1 in 5 people who come to the food bank are there because there is some unexpected, out of the blue emergency that just put them in a spot of not having enough food in the household. Child care costs is actually only at 6%, and SNAP or checks benefits being late, that's a little bit of an outdated question, but very, very few people are reporting that being the issue. I think that we can see here that housing, low wages, unemployment, out of SNAP benefits is an interesting response. It really indicates that the main federal mechanism that we have to address hunger in our community is not adequate. People are not getting the benefits that they need to make it through the month with the SNAP program. So that's all of the numbers that I'm going to push out to you today. This is the state of hunger in our community. 1 in 6 people last year didn't have enough food in the house, and had to go to our local food bank in order to have something so basic as food. So what can we do as a community about this? I just said, more food may not be the answer. We are really, really good at distributing emergency food assistance, and we're grateful to do it, and and it's necessary. It's obviously necessary. 120,000 services necessary. But what can we do moving forward as a community to try to stop this unsustainable trend? We invite our community to learn more. So there's a really great documentary. It's a few years old. It's called Place at the Table. It is on Netflix. Missoula Food Bank also has copies that we're happy to lend out. There's also a reading list on our website that has books like $2 a Day, Poverty. It's got a number of books that really get into the nitty-gritty of welfare reform and the SNAP program and the federal budgeting process, things along those lines. A new program this year that we're really excited about is our volunteer advocate program. So over the last several years, we have been out in our community collecting information and doing surveys and really assessing where hunger is and to what extent, and having information for the sake of having information is no good. We're going to do something with that, and it starts with our volunteer advocate initiative. So this upcoming Monday, January 25th at 4 p.m. at Missoula Food Bank will be our first advocate orientation. This is where we talk a little bit more about our advocacy priorities. And then there are other opportunities for us all to be engaged in advocacy type work. One example is Project Homeless Connect, which is a citywide collaboration where it's kind of a one-stop shop for those who are either at risk of homelessness or living in homelessness. And that is Thursday, January 29th. We are still looking for volunteers. There's still about a 50-person gap in the volunteer pool. And so you can contact Missoula Food Bank, Liz Corey, actually, if you're interested in taking part in that. And then something that's really exciting and something that we are starting to see dirt moving. Missoula Food Bank is relocating, and to chat a little bit more about that, I'm going to hand it back over to Erin.
So Jessica walked through a lot of numbers, and we've sort of laughed to ourselves because it's, well, you look at the little site that we have by Bernice's Bakery and you think, this is the hub for all of this. And we really need a different and a bigger space. We started searching for a new location in the summer of 2013. We purchased a property spring of 2014. And as Jess said, there's dirt moving around. Spring of 2015, we bought it. There's dirt moving around. They're cleaning up the property. It's on Catlin and Wyoming. When we did this, we looked at where people come to Missoula Food Bank from. They put their addresses down on that intake survey. And so we were looking to see, is there a cluster? Is there a high need space? What spaces are better than others? And we were sort of blown away by what the data showed us. People are coming to Missoula Food Bank from literally every nook and cranny of our community. Yes, there are higher need spaces and lower need spaces, and frankly, they're what you would expect. When you look on North Russell, certainly that's a high need area. University District, less so. But still, people are coming from both of those places. And if I was better at reading this map, I could tell you exactly where we're going. Let's see if I can figure it out. This is the Higgins Bridge. This is the Orange Street Bridge. This is the Russell Bridge. So right now, we're right in here. And where we're going is right off of, I think right in, oh yeah, we're going, oh, there's Russell. So we're going right in here. Our friends at the University of Montana, I'm sorry, at the city's data mapping department, when they crunched the numbers, they felt like it was a really ideal spot for us, more convenient for more people who need our service. This is an architectural rendering. Is it going to look exactly like this with every color exactly the same and so on? I'm sure it won't, but it's going to look a lot like this. And we're in a capital campaign right now. We need to raise about another $1 million only to pull this off. But we're hoping to start construction here in the spring, here in April. And that's, of course, a timeline that depends on our continued fundraising success. But if we're able to do that, then this building will be built by January of 2017, and we'll be moving in then. And that's really an exciting timeline for us, and it's desperately needed. You know, Jess talked a lot about some of the non-negotiables at Missoula Food Bank, and dignity is right at the very top of that list. When someone who comes to the food bank chooses to use our service, instead of going hungry, letting their kids go hungry, they've made the right choice. So let's affirm that choice every step of the way. And I see people who walk through our doors and they've never been there before, and you can imagine that family that is used to making it. They're on a tight budget, but they make it, darn it. They're working hard, and they've got a house, and they've got a car, and their kids are in school with your kids, your grandkids, and then something happens. There's that crisis. There's a temporary job loss, or an injury, or an illness, or whatever it is, and they walk through our doors, and you watch people walk through with their eyes down at the ground, and the burden that they're carrying, and it's a physical weight that you see on them. And I watch those people come in, and I watch them fill a form out, and I watch them wait in our waiting area with their eyes down, not making eye contact. And then they visit with a volunteer, and the volunteer is welcoming and friendly, and there's no judgment there. And then they get a shopping cart and a list, and they go through it. And darn it, at the end of their visit, yeah, they got this food, they got some groceries, and that's critically important. And this other thing happened also. And they walk out, and their posture is better than it was when they walked in. And that is awesome. And Suzette's quote really speaks to that. But it's a key part of why we need to move. When you're coming through our doors today, and on a busy day, on Tuesday of this week, we had more than 100 families come through our doors between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m., which means even when we're hustling, and we are, there's a 45-minute wait. How much dignity can there be in that? So we see people who come in who have an impediment to service because of the lack of infrastructure. And our ability to provide not only service, but the kind of service that we feel reflects the values of Missoula is impeded by our current location and our lack of space. So as we strive for dignity, the new location is being built with that at the top of our minds. That's the end of our presentation. I'd love to engage you in some conversation. I will call your attention to a couple of other upcoming Food for Thoughts. On February 18th, we'll be talking about Medicaid expansion. On March 17th, we'll be talking about the Earned Income Tax Credit. And we have educated speakers who are coming to talk on both of those issues. And then on March 23rd, those two folks and Jessica will be on a panel at 5 p.m. February 18th and March 17th, that's from noon to 1 here in this space that we're in right now.